Okay, so a few weeks have passed since the end of chapter 2, and chapter 3 starts with a few things we've learned. First of all, Nick has a new job, and second of all, he's seen Tom and Daisy here and there, but really he's just been focused on working. So looking at the timeline of the summer, it's like maybe late June or so. So the one thing he's really been curious about, of course, is who's Gatsby. He knows he throws these parties, he's seen him, but he's never gone yet. Until one Saturday morning he gets an invitation. One of Gatsby's servants brings it over, and of course Nick then wants to attend. So that's really the main point here of chapter 3 is going to be this party scene with Nick going to Gatsby's. So the first thing he does is he describes the entire night. He's like in shock of how many people are there. I mean, celebrities and people on Wall Street and movie stars and all these people are there, how much alcohol's there, the amount of cars that are there, the food, there's orchestras, the whole thing. So it's just, a spectacle for Nick to see. And he kind of doesn't know anybody, so he's walking around and suddenly he runs into Jordan Baker. And he hasn't seen her for a few weeks, but they start talking and she goes, I think I'll spend the night with you and we'll have some fun. And little did Nick know that she actually had another date, and she ditches this other guy. So she spends the night with Nick, and they kind of just walk around the party. And Nick is even like, I didn't drink much, but everybody else is, so I did, a little bit. So they're walking through the party, and there's two things that Nick really notices. Number one, just how much people are drinking and how rich everybody seems to be. But number two, everybody in the party is talking about Gatsby. They all have like their own rumor. The one guy says, I heard he's killed somebody. Another guy says, I heard he's a German spy. These girls claim to have known him, but it seems like no one knows him. So Jordan, kind of on a whim, says, I have an idea. I want to meet this Gatsby guy. So she kind of pulls Nick along, and they go into the house. And they're really basically trying to find him, but she says, we'll say thanks for inviting us. So they walk inside, and there's really no one inside. But Nick is, again, just in awe of how big the house is. And he's got this great big piano and all these paintings on the wall. And it's, marble floor and like the whole thing. And they can't find him. No one's in there. About maybe a half hour goes by, and they go into one last room. And it's this huge library that is, from ceiling to floor, just full of books. And they see this random dude in there, and it's a famous scene. This guy is, this short guy, he's kind of older, and he's got these big owl-rimmed glasses, like these big eyes. And Nick just says, I called them owl eyes because I didn't know what else to call them. And this guy's like kind of drunk, and he's like holding this martini glass, and he sees Nick and Jordan walk in, and it's a really funny scene. He has these books. And they're like, he's throwing them everywhere. And he's like, look, like, I can't believe it. He's like shoving books in Nick's face. And Nick's like, yeah, dude, like, I see, it's a book. Like, I've seen it before. And he goes, no, you don't get it. This is a real book. I've looked through all of these books. They're all real. They have real pages and everything. And Nick is like, yeah. And he doesn't quite get it. Now, if you read this in 1925, you'd understand what he means. Back in those days, books were expensive, especially leather ones. So to have a whole library of books would be pretty rare. And this is basically him showing us, Gatsby's real. He's genuine. His wealth is real. So Nick doesn't quite get it, but us as the reader, this is an important scene. So we know his wealth is real. He's not faking it. And Jordan and Nick leave. And we'll get back to Owl Eyes here in a minute. So they leave the room. And they go back outside, and Nick's kind of bummed, like, I wanted to find Gatsby. I don't know where he is. And he's kind of thinking about leaving. And as he's walking down the steps, when we watch the movie, it's a really good scene. He literally runs into this other guy. And he goes, I'm sorry, like, I didn't see you there. And they start talking. And Nick kind of says, you look really familiar. And, this guy says, you do too. And Nick says, the one thing I noticed is he had like the greatest smile, like he had this great face and this great demeanor, and kind of what Fitzgerald does is, facial expressions show a character's true personality. So thinking about Tom, he's always grimacing, and Jordan's kind of always like smirking, and well, this guy's, he's smiling, so he's like a really charismatic dude. And this guy says, I think I have it. Were you in, so-and-so battalion in the Army? And Nick was. So they kind of knew each other from over in Europe. And they start talking, and Nick just kind of says, by the way, do you know this Gatsby guy? Like, where is he? I have no idea where this dude is. And this guy says, oh, like, I beg your pardon, I thought you knew. I am Gatsby. And he like shakes his hand and smiles. And Nick kind of says it was just a weird kind of circumstance. First of all, like, he was surprised that this was the guy. But second of all, he's like, he's really young. He was really, youthful, and like didn't seem like in my mind what he'd be like. And it just seemed like we were going to be good friends just from that first conversation. And they talked for, a couple minutes, and Gatsby even goes, why don't I pick you up tomorrow afternoon, and like, I know you live next door, we'll go to lunch or something. So of course Nick is like, yeah, sure. Like, he's pumped up. He's wanted to meet this guy. So that's going to be the focus of chapter 4. But Gatsby says, nice to meet you. I have to go take a phone call. And he goes back inside. And Nick, like, is excited. So he goes to find Jordan. He says, I just met him. Like, you missed it. And Jordan's kind of angry at herself. And they're starting to walk away. And one of Gatsby's servants approaches him and goes over to Jordan and says, Jordan, Mr. Gatsby would like to talk to you inside, like alone. And Jordan is like, that's weird. How does he even know who I am? So this guy ushers her inside, and the party's kind of like breaking up. It's later at night, and Nick's just waiting for her. Maybe 20 minutes goes by, and she comes back down the steps, and she's like all excited. And Nick says, well, what was that about? And she goes, you'll never believe what I just heard. It was the most extraordinary thing. And Nick says, well, what? And she goes, well, Gatsby, he told me his biggest secret. I can't believe it. Like, it all makes sense now, but I never would have thought. And Nick is a little bit like weirded out, like, what's going on? And she goes, you'll find out. He's going to tell you soon enough. He actually needs your help. And Nick doesn't. That's kind of a cliffhanger. And Nick is a little bit like, okay, I guess we'll see. So they decide to leave the party. And as they leave, probably the most famous scene in chapter 3 happens that we're going to get back to. They're walking down the steps, and Nick starts thinking, like, I can see myself with Jordan. She's kind of very attractive, someone who's intriguing, but he's like, at the same time, she's not always honest. Like, I don't know if I trust her. There's these stories of her cheating in golf, and she ruined this one dude's car who she was dating, and so it's like kind of this weird thing. He likes her, but he doesn't. And he's thinking about this stuff. So as they're leaving, they see, this huge car accident outside of Gatsby's driveway. And this one car literally just runs into the ditch and like flips over. And the driver kind of escapes, and then the passenger runs towards Nick and Jordan, like screaming. And the passenger is, of course, this Owl Eyes guy from the library. And he's like drunk, like still holding that martini glass. And Nick is like, what happened? And the guy says, I didn't see it coming. Like, I just didn't see it. And Nick says, well, how'd you get in the accident? And the guy says, well, the wheel fell off. I didn't see it coming. And just runs away. And this scene's important. Like, if you look through the very last 2 or 3 pages of chapter 3, there's a few things that we have to understand. First of all, Fitzgerald could have used any animal to describe this guy, but he chose an owl. Knowing literature, owls always do 2 things. Number 1, they show wisdom, and number 2, they always foreshadow something evil. So this character's important. Number 2, the way he described the accident is important too. He said the wheel fell off. I don't know if you guys have heard the phrase, when the wheels fall off the wagon, like stuff that, bad stuff happens. So this is kind of implying maybe something bad is going to happen here. Not only that, you have to understand the timeline of the story. You have Gatsby, who just spilled his secret, whatever it is. We don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's out. And right after he explains it, the next scene, there's this terrible accident. And it's almost like, from this point in the story, like all hell's going to break loose. Like the wheels are going to fall off. So when we get to especially chapter 7, we're going to remember this scene. without a last miss car accident, but it's important to remember. Okay, so that's going to be the end of chapter 3. Nick and Jordan leave the party. Chapter 4 is going to be when Gatsby and Nick go to lunch in New York City. One of my favorite scenes. We'll have a lot to talk about. So that's chapter 3.